Hello and welcome. This is a video for my meltology friends about these stones with frames. I have been exploring in the last couple of days. I found them in Bratislava and surrounding areas. This is a small town in Austria near Bratislava. It's called Hainburg, and they have this wall, and it's composed mostly of these framed stones. What I'm talking about, these are stones that have a frame that is lower than the other part of the stone. It's like, I would say, embossed. They have frames, you can see that. It's better visible in this close-up. Oops, sorry. And they are different, and I was asking what people think about it. Mostly the answer was that they are cast, but I don't think they are cast. In my opinion, they have been sintered by the X factor in this way. The first and foremost reason why I think they are not cast is they are all different. Because when you cast a stone, you have to prepare a mold and cast into a mold, and all cast stones would be same. And we have different sizes, and also the embossment is different. Some are very shallow and some are deep embossments, or I don't know how to call it. I'm trying to express myself best I can in English. But you can see that all these rocks or blocks are different. All of them have a frame, but they differ. So I don't think they were cast. So I explored this area, Pottenburg. I released a video about it. But I will only say what is connected to these framed stones or blocks with frames. So this wall, I was exploring this wall. There is a tower too, but this wall shows what I call a skin, that a structure or a wall is affected differently inside and outside. These bricks that are on the outside or on the skin, I call it a skin of a wall, have a bigger tendency to block up, which is nicely visible from this shot when the outer skin bigger blocks has fallen out of the wall, and we can see inside where the smaller blocks are visible, or smaller stones. It's always smaller inside. The stones are smaller inside than on the skin. So this I call the skin. Blocking of the bricks which are on the outer side of the structure of the wall, and this blocking is even bigger on the edges. These bricks have more open sides or empty sides that are not inside of the structure but face the outside. And if the energy flows from inside out, I think this is what has to do with it. The crust is created, and I call this a frame, and you see the connection here. This is a frame of a building, and also around the windows and openings these bigger blocks are created, and there is a flat frame around. If we look, I found these stones on the same location, and it has these framed rocks here and here and also here. And also notice these bricks here, these small bricks here. I will make a connection also later with this. But now if we see, this is the frame of the block. Consider this block, and here is the fractal connection I make between this block and the building. This is a big block, and it is also framed. I think this is the same thing what we see here. This could be a building, and it has a frame, and the middle part is expanding, and the frame keeps longer like a crust Also here, when we look, this is smooth surface. It is kind of a frame, and this is expanding out. What's between the frame, it's expanding out. So I think this is, see, this is the frame. It's pretty smooth and very sharp, and this part that is in between the frame, the middle part of the block, it's coming out. I think this is the connection, and this is another type of frame. I think this phenomena has to do with the same principle that creates these frames. This frame and also the frame around the block, and it has to do with the position of the brick in or the block, the grain in the structure. I hope I expressed myself clearly. Also, these are frames from these bricks, and we see this phenomena. I will show this in the other part. What's this? Oh, but this also, you can see here, bigger blocks are surrounded by smaller blocks. It may have to do with magnetism or electricity, a charge, how these blocks are rearranged and the bricks rearranged and diffused from one to another. But it creates this framing. Even when the blocks are separated, there is a gap, a space between them, which was not built this way. They did not put this block and mortar around it, we know that. There were bricks and the mortar were in different place. So I think this gap and mortar rearrangement, and it has to do also with the framing. I call this phenomena framing. And in the second part of this presentation, I will show you more frame stones I have found. This is in Bratislava, and this is walls around the castle. And you can see these were brick walls, that's very nicely visible, which are X-factored. And in this part we see the blocks. There are different blocks. This even comes out of the wall. I don't know why it is not here. I would expect the embossment also to come up in here, but it did not. I don't know. Maybe there are other factors, it seems, but the shape of the block, I think, is the major factor for creating these frames, of course. And I have found it also on another part of the wall, and here you can see these small parts and this block, which is not nicely done in a rectangular shape, but it comes from the inside, I believe. These are like some cores and they keep the form of the block. It's maybe about magnetism or something like that. This is another part of the city wall where these framed blocks are created. Also, this is on the castle in Bratislava, which has been renovated and it has been smoothed out, but this is the same embossment of the blocks. This is somewhere in Crete, same phenomena. It even has sometimes multiple levels, like here. Do you see? There is one level and second level of embossment. This happens sometimes. And this is, I think, in Greece. This is a bigger frame. Different conditions probably create different spacing in between, but I consider this also the same phenomena, this embossment. Here, this is in Israel. You can see the different kinds of these embossed stones and framed stones in this part of the building. Also here there are some signs of I think this is coming out. It was regular block like this, and then, or under different frequency or conditions, it comes out. It's an expansion of the stone. The here bigger blocks also create the same effect. This is the in same place. But you can see they are from bricks by the color of these blocks. They are sintered. Okay, this is already melted. But for example, these blocks, you can see it is this shape, and it follows the shape. Also, this follows the shape. Not always, but mainly the embossment follows the shape of the block. Also here, this block is deformed and the embossment follows the shape of the block. Maybe I will find some other examples. Let's see. We can see the embossment here coming out. The frame is created. It's like budding of a stone, I would say. It's coming out of itself, expanding from middle, from inside out. Not only from inside of the whole structure, but as holographically the principle also works for smaller parts, smaller blocks of the structure, I believe. And we can see the embossment or budding of the stone here. Some blocks don't have the frame, others already have the frame. And even others here, they still have the gap. They still have the gap. The frame was destroyed too, but there is still gap in between, and there is like embossment of the stone. They are not connected like these stones. These blocks, I think, were created first, like blocking up of the bricks and then petrifying the bricks, and then starts, I believe, this process of expansion, and it creates a frame first, and then the frame is destroyed and they are melted together later. Here we can see different phases of this process. I believe this is not created by people, like this is not designed. I believe this is a phenomena connected to X factor. And I show you now another more here. Look, these blocks also have frames. Also this block, sometimes it is very shallow, or sometimes it is bigger. I think it's an expansion, but there is something which keeps the expansion inside the frame. It's the shape. And that's a speculation, of course, but for example here, but it's a connection I see. Also this gate, in these blocks there are no frames, but in these lower frames there are frames. I think it's not a design. It was created by X factor. You can see them in all of these stones, different sizes, different shapes. Here all of them have all of the stones have them. Now here are the brick-sized stones, here are the blocks, and here are the bigger blocks, and also the bigger blocks create the same effect. It's fractal, I believe. It works this way, like the whole building creates the frame I've showed you in the beginning. Also the blocks create this frame, which is later broken. Also here you can see the frames on the left side. I think this is a transition from a flat block. It starts to come out and more, and then it's transitioned into this kind of rocks, and there is also a gap in between them. The gap is kept on the outer side, and we can see that also. Where is that? For example, I don't know where is this, but you see there was no mortar put in between these stones, and this is not cast stone, I believe. These are blocked up sintered bricks, and these frames are created by some electromagnetic principle from different blocks that, like magnets, if you put two magnets with the same charge, they don't touch each other. There is a gap, something similar, but that's just the intuition. I don't know how does it work. It's a speculation, but it's for you to consider, because I don't think these are cast stones, and I will show you more examples which show that these are not cast stones, not at all. See here, for example, here is the embossment or here is the frame, but these stones in the lower parts, they don't have that, but they have this gap, this frame. It seems like mortar is filled in between, but we know these were not rocks. How did the mortar come here? I think it's because of this phenomena of framing. Same thing here in the lower part. See, these are some framed stones, and these only have gaps in between them. They do not touch each other. Also, if you look at this part here, this is very similar. This is very similar, and this also, these lines, they keep the distance. These are embossed here, but also this is less, but I consider this the same phenomena, that they are not touching each other, but later they will, when it comes out, of course they are melted together. And here I see that this is from bricks. You see, this is from bricks. This is sinter bricks. You can see also by the color. This is all by the striation marks. And here is the embossment. Here is the embossment. It's created on them. Also here and in the upper part. And these blocks, I think, are later phase when the embossment becomes a gap. Same thing here. Okay, I'm coming to the last part of the presentation. This is in different parts of the world. They are found. This is in Baalbek. Same thing. This is in Israel. Some of them has the frame. Some of them has the frame. Some of them has the gap, and then here we only have the gaps and the smaller stones in between, which are eaten up by these blocks probably, but they also create kind of a frame around this bigger block. I think it has to do with the same phenomena. Framing, I would call it. Maybe you have a better name for it. And this is the same thing. They all have these gaps around them. Also, if they are different shapes, they keep their gaps. Here, even the coloring. This is a different color than this lighter frame. And there is this embossment always around them. And this is somewhere on the beach. I think Deborah posted these pictures, and they have the same effect just on the ground. It does not seem to be artificial. You know, I think it was created. They are broken up into blocks, and then all individual blocks create these frames. When they start to expand, they don't just expand in any way, in any direction. They don't expand inside because there is no space, and they keep this distance maybe because of some charge, it seems to me. This is the same thing, more advanced, same embossment here. on these blocks, these gaps and frames. Here it is very nicely visible. This, if you would put this vertically, this is the same like on the wall I showed you in the beginning. This is in more advanced stage when the block is expanding. And these are like in Peru or wherever you have these polygonal structures. They don't have to be just squares. And then same principle is there. There is always this gap, this space in between them. I think that's the framing. Yeah, it lasts some time, like a crust on a bread. You know, the crust is created on a bread by baking. This is something like that. And then when the bread expands more, then the crust is broken and it comes outside. I think this is a similar effect. All these embossments are created by this effect. And these blocks are rounded by it. You know, there are gaps in between them. Also this, how did this mortar come here and these gaps in the wall? Because it was not built with these stones, it was built with bricks. So how are they arranged in this way? I think there is some force, some charge in between the blocks, which keeps a distance between them. It's the same thing. Also, this is more sintered. This, I think, would become this after expansion. But still, there is this gap, it's not a gap, but a frame around. This is from pyramids. Look, these blocks. The same thing. They are embossed, there are blocks between them. Also here. Or here on the beach, similar effect. All these things, look, for example here, this looks like that embossed block, or more of them. They look similar, they look very similar. There are these gaps, these embossments, you know, of the blocks. I think the same principle also here. When we look at this, we see this is like that frame around the block. There is some charge that's keeping the shape of that block. So that's my take on these framed blocks. Let me know what you think. Is this a complete nonsense? You see? I see it also here. Now I see it everywhere. But James wrote that it's pretty common, so I think it must be some general principle. Thank you for your attention and for your support, and we will see each other next time.